times that you have tried to play the game, trying to have things your own way. It's led to nothing and things still remain the same. And I don't wanna play. So you see that this is not the way to be, and the time has come to choose. If it comes down to a fight between you and me, then you are doomed to lose.
Keep the red flag flying here.
Hello and welcome to Socialist Night Live on Socialist Think Tank. We are really glad to have some really special guests here that you may recognise, you may not recognise. Those of you who watch our Tuesday show will recognise Stuart. I am absolutely sure of that. And we've also got Kerry, who is here as well. So we're really pleased. I've got Penny on my knee too, because she's, she's just getting used to the new home after we've had a little holiday. Well, our old home, our current home, our home. That's the one. Yeah. So I'll go around the panel. I'll start off with the people who you're probably most familiar with. I'll go to Laura. Hi, Laura. How you doing?
Hello, I'm okay. I'm gonna refrain from going, I'm so tired. No, and yeah, I just did, so yeah. I'm good though. It's fine.
It wouldn't be a day ending in Y if we didn't complain about how tired we are, Laura. So
Yeah,
it's
true.
a good one.
True.
And Stuart, it's nice to see you on a Saturday. I think you've been on a Saturday before as well, haven't you?
I have one time before.
Yeah.
So quite the pleasure to be back.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you on, and everyone always loves your comments. You're going to have to speak in longer sentences than you are famed for tonight, because you are one of our experts tonight. But I'm sure you never disappoint. Yeah, you never disappoint when you go on a little bit longer. And also, we've got Kerry. Hi, how are you doing, Kerry?
I'm all right, thank you.
Right.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, now I'm going to ask a little bit more detail about who you are and what you're up to, and then I'll come back to Stuart and ask him sort of why he's one of our experts for tonight as well. But can you please give us a little bit of background on yourself and why we've invited you on tonight?
I'm Kerry. I'm from Middlesbrough. I've got 3 children. I'm a widowed mum of 3 kids, and I'm currently in receipt of the dreadful Universal Credit. I'm a member of Unite Community, and I'm also the National Forum Chair. I'm a bit of a gob, but in a good way at times, but sometimes not a very good way. But yeah, I just think it's a big important issue, Universal Credit. Yeah, I'm just basically like one of us. It doesn't take a translator to understand me after all. With being on here, like normally they say my accent doesn't work with subtitles.
Yeah, increasingly it does though. They're picking it up on it. Those algorithms are clever, and I think that's one of the important things as well because we often hear about universal credit from either people who have never been on it or who want to misrepresent it and so on and speak down to people all the time, and we don't want to do that. We want to hear from people who have real lived experiences. So you're really welcome on here, and we're going to get into universal credit in a moment. I'll also talk about Unite Community as well. So Stuart, you're going to do that one for me in a second. So Unite Community that Kerry's mentioned there. What is Unite Community?
Unite Community it's essentially like a membership level within Unite, the biggest union in the country. Is it the biggest? Just.
Isn't the other U one the biggest?
Is the other U one? I'm not sure. Anyway, what we do at Unite Community is members who are not currently in work, who can't work for various reasons, who are retired, who financially have the means not to be in employment, who wouldn't end up in any of those natural like industrial or sectoral branches. Can be community members, and we focus campaigns on making sure that those members' lives are better. And one of the big things is universal credit.
Great. And so, Unite Community was maybe we'll say congratulations to Sharon Graham, because it was a bit of a relief to Unite Community that had Gerard Coyne won the Unite General Secretary race, he was going to scrap Unite Community. Is that right? Or that was one of his election pledges?
My understanding was he wanted rid because we were now but left-wing political weirdos, and he didn't want to facilitate a home for us because unions are apparently just for paid workers rather than all workers.
Now, I'm convinced on this one, and I already know what I think on this one, but why is it important that a UK trade union would have a section for people who are currently out of work? And it's quite a unique thing, isn't it?
It is.
So how is that a good thing?
Well, if you're an employed person and that employment ceases, you would drop out of your industrial branch and you would have nowhere to go, and then you wouldn't have any involvement in your union, which is a big one. And also, one of the key factors in you negotiating for, better wages, for better conditions, is the state of the welfare system going alongside. So you need members who are fighting for that baseline protection for people to make sure that when you are in employment, you're getting wages that are good, good, solid, wages that offer you a future.
So I guess it's a sensible, even from a cynical point of view, it's a sensible recruitment thing, because, the idea would be that some people who are unemployed at some point in the future will be employed and will want to join a trade union, and why not stick with the one that stuck with you through thick and thin and fought for you, and that it makes perfect sense to me. But anyway, right, so let's go on to universal credit. So we do have international listeners for our podcast. I don't know if we've got anyone international on tonight who's listening. If you are listening from somewhere else who doesn't understand universal credit, we are going to explain what it is for you now. So Kerry, what is universal credit?
Universal credit is the most demonising thing that this government's ever brought in. Universal credit is supposed to be equal to people who depend on it to top up their wages, so they don't have to go through the old tax credit system, which if you worked an hour over a week, you would be demonised. You'd have your old tax credits took off you. On paper, universal credit, I will give it its due. It's actually quite a good thing, innit? It prepares people for work who've been in long-time unemployment, because how many people get paid weekly these days? And it is a really, really good thing. It's just that the issues around it, it's immorally wrong. Universal credit is just the devil that the Tories brought in. But universal credit is a way of so-called welfare state, but it's not welfare. It's supposed to be social security, where any of us lot on here now could fall into that net, and it's supposed to be social security, where universal credit is far from social security. It's the devil in disguise, in my opinion. It's just horrific and it's awful. But,
Yeah, so it's like so I guess like universal credit came in under David Cameron's government, yeah, wasn't it? And it was that Ian Duncan Smith was quite famous. Yeah, and it was like with that famous one where he was like celebrating it going through, and everyone. I think there was one where he celebrated the nurses getting a pay cut as well, which is what a guy, Ian Duncan Smith. But and interesting, like comments coming in already on this one, and it's obviously very very powerful. This we've got. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Leanne said that 39% of people who claim universal credit, which is the British version of Social Security, are in work. So it's an in-work benefit as well, and people who work full time or whatever can be in receipt of this as well.
Changed now. It's actually 40% of working people claim universal credit. It's 42% in the south, east, west. Tell a lie. So 42% of the working population claim universal credit. If that doesn't scream at you that there's big issues with this country and the living wage and everything like that, there's something totally wrong with you.
Yeah, that's an alarm bell, isn't it, Stuart? So universal credit to you. What is universal credit to you?
Its core DNA, what it was designed was to simplify claiming benefits by moving it to an online system, and it replaced 6 means tested benefits. So based on the amount of money that you had coming into the household, and it was designed to make everything easier, and you could just do it online. And what happened was it's been twisted to a point where it's used as a beating stick to keep you down. You go through, basically you're jumping through unachievable hoops just to have, the basic rights of any person who live in this country. It's as if dignity is being withheld from you, because it's quite cruel. Probably one of the harshest aspects of British society right now. Yeah. And for a lot of people, it's little short than violence against them.
Yeah. So, like, we've heard from both of you about what you think universal credit is and stuff. And Laura, I'm going to go to you now for just a little idea of what sort of things do you hear people say about universal credit? Like, how is it portrayed in the media in the UK as, like, the people who get universal credit? Like, for me, it's not necessarily what we've heard there. It's not people who need it. It's not people who are in work. It's not people, who deserve it. So what sort of stories do you hear from people or from the media?
I'll be perfectly honest with you, Paul. I don't listen to the news anymore, so I genuinely don't know how they're portraying it. I can hazard a guess of what people might say. That we still live in a world where people are benefit scroungers and scum and all of that nonsense, when in actual fact we're still living in a time where people who are working full time need universal credit to top up. And I think Kat and Jane have both mentioned in the comments today about how basically it props up terrible wages. And I know there's loads of campaigns at the minute going on about the £20 uplift that I'm sure we'll go into more detail on. But for me, it all just seems a bit like, well, hang on a second, we're having this argument about a universal credit and how to make it work, when in actual fact, we shouldn't be arguing over 20 quid. We shouldn't be in a position where an extra 20 quid for someone is like life or death. They can afford to feed themselves or not. We should have employers that pay decent, proper wages, not pretendy wages that they can scrape by with. And the whole system's just corrupt and a mess. And the fact that the government are like going to take back this 20 quid is just outrageous. This is like pennies, not even pennies to them. It's just a complete lack of care, and these conversations shouldn't be being had anyway.
I think what you've alluded to there is actually, like, a lot of people think that the universal credit system at the moment isn't actually there to help the people. It is there as a subsidy to big business who are underpaying employees. So if you've got like a big company that's making like, there are companies that are saying we've made 175 million profit this quarter and things like that. And their employees are claiming universal credit, which for me is a mark of shame to a company. If you're not paying someone enough that they don't have to go to the government to claim something in order to be able to live, that is not a good company. And all the profit in the world is not going to make that a good company. That is a broken system. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Sorry, but do you know how many NHS workers, frontline NHS workers, have to claim universal credit because they don't get paid enough? And in our NHS, and if that's not shameful, nothing is. Like NHS frontline workers who put their lives on the line for us last year are having to claim universal credit to top up their wages to live. That is just beyond shameful of this government, and it's just so wrong. And yeah, like I can understand like what you're saying about employers, but NHS is one of the biggest employers in this country, well, by our government, and so many millions of people have to claim universal credit who work within our precious NHS. And if that's not wrong, something is not right. Do you know what I mean? Like something's not right if our NHS workers have to claim universal credit.
I couldn't agree more there. That's a huge point that you've made there. So it's not just these multinationals that are paying people badly. It's like our government who are refusing to pay our hard-working NHS staff who actually kept people alive enough money to live on. It's an absolute disgrace.
It's our government who are allowing employers to the opportunity to do that. If they clamp down on made multi-billion-dollar businesses pay their tax and made them pay their wages properly, we probably wouldn't be in this position. So, yeah, the Tories have got a hell of a lot to answer for.
Okay. So, Laura, earlier on you mentioned about the £20 uplift, and that's what this is about today. This has been the big campaign. Firstly, let's go to Stuart to explain what the £20 uplift is, and then I'm going to come to Kerry because you've been doing something absolutely amazing today, and we do have pictures. We'll come to that in a little while, but yeah. Oh, sorry, it wasn't today, was it? But it was very recently. Yeah. Okay, so Stuart, what is it? What's been going on? What is the £20 uplift, and why are you fighting to keep it?
At the beginning of the pandemic, the £20 uplift was given to the most vulnerable and lowest paid people receiving universal credit to help them survive the pandemic. And obviously that lifted many people out of pretty awful situations. We in the time over the last 18 months, we've seen prices rise. It's more difficult to get your shopping, as well as these people were already in pretty dire situations financially. They already needed that money long before coronavirus turned up. And what's happening now is after the 18 months, Rishi Sunak is saying, it's time to cut it off. You don't need this money, and back down to 52 quid for you all. Whereas what Unite Community and lots of other people have been pushing to sort out was to make this permanent and extend it to more people. People who had been excluded because they weren't on universal credit. They were on some other benefit, whether it was a legacy benefit or some form of pension even. So that's what the universal credit uplift is.
So, like, I don't know, I guess, why is it important to keep it, Kerry?
Well, if it's not kept, I'll be £86 a month down for a start. It's massively important. Like, people are given the basic amount of money to live on in general anyway. And £20 might not seem a lot to many people. £20 is my gas and electric, a bit more a week, and it's meant that I haven't had to really worry about when it comes to, I get paid the 11th of every month. It's meant that when it comes to like the first of every month that I haven't worried, turn them lights off, or just put your hoodie on, or do whatever, so we don't have to put the heating on, or do whatever. And £80, like, it's going to cost £6 million, £6 billion, I tell a lie, £6 billion to keep this £20 uplift to every claimant of UC. But £6 billion to keep millions of people out of poverty is nothing compared to like £37 billion on Serco. And I think that like £20 just been, I can't explain like how much it's been beneficial to me. I've been able to get a broadband connection in my house for a long, long time. Not like one of them dongle things where my kids all connect from it. I can get a proper like broadband connection in my house, and I can't say no to my kids as much as I used to say no to them. And I've been put in this situation through no fault of my own, and you feel like a benefit scrounger of society, and it's immorally wrong, and it's just really hard to explain. But 20 quid might be 20 quid, like, oh yeah, order a pizza, 20 quid, but 20 quid to me is like £100 too many. It's really, really hard to explain. And the one word that fills me, like one word I can explain the cut coming is complete and utter dread. I absolutely dread coming at the end of September. I do dread it. It's awful. And I think that all these patriotic people who look after our own and have all these issues with asylum seekers, but demonise the likes of me, and it's just wrong. They're not patriotics. They're small-minded. I won't swear.
You can swear if you want. It's that kind of show.
They're absolutely small-minded morons. Look after our own. But you demonise the likes of me who gets 20 universal credit and let's take the 20 quid or get free school meals. They all want to get the small-minded like heads out their arseholes, and it infuriates me. Sorry.
What I found really interesting there about the things that you said you've spent that on, it's like you've spent that on something for your kids, something for your kids' education.
Yeah.
And something that's actually saved you money, isn't it? Because I think what a lot of people don't realise is if you're paying for your gas and electric in a certain way, not through a contract, it's going to cost you more money. That's the way our system's set up. Like if you can get a contract, if you have a steady wage coming in, then that is much easier, and it's going to cost you a lot less than if you're going to do top-ups at your local shop or something like that. And the broadband thing that you were talking about there as well, long term, are you finding like, you know, having that little bit more means that you can do these things more securely, and then it's actually cheaper for you? Have you found that?
Massively so. And even like the big like energy companies absolutely take the piss out of the likes of me who are on prepayment meters. We pay so much more for our gas and electricity, which is on another level. But having a stable, everyone knows what it's like to have, like, I've got 3 kids, 15, 13 and 8, but I think she's 18. But a broadband connection in my house, if my broadband goes down for 2 minutes, the kids have a mental breakdown. And where this £20 uplift a week's meant that I've been able to get a stable broadband connection in my house. It's as though the poor in society are continuously demonised, not just by the government, but by these big power companies, the Wi-Fi companies, and we're continuously, it's like having a size 11 shoe on your head and you're continuously pressed down in society, where to me, that, as a socialist, that's just like immorally wrong. And people are getting put in. I don't want to be in this situation. I was shot in this situation through no fault of my own. And it's just immorally wrong. And people say, oh, benefit scroungers. I'm a carer for my son who's got autism. I have got a job, so in October, but I want a job and I want to be working and stuff like that. And it's this minority and these small-minded, patriotic people who want their country back, who have so many issues with the likes of me, and the need to like just seriously get their heads out their asses and give their heads a wobble about looking after our own, because they don't. They're just small-minded. They just believe everything that the Daily Shite tells them, and it infuriates me. And Stuart knows what I'm like with my gob, and I'm I am being very refrained here. But it absolutely infuriates me that these patriotics that want their country back need to get their heads out their assholes. Sorry.
So you honestly you don't have to worry. Like I forgot in the pre-build up to the show, you are allowed to swear on this show. It's fine. You know you
Stuart
can.
knows me
you can,
really well.
You can.
Well, Stuart knows me, but like I do get my gob gets me into trouble quite a lot, and I do speak as I see. But you get, oh, let's take our country back. Look after our own. Yeah, look after our own. Them ones who had so many issues in January about kids getting fed for free school meals. They seriously need to get off the moral high ground in it. Oh, you can see I'm going red because it's infuriating me.
So like, I suppose along that theme, Stuart, like you'll have heard people say things like, you know, with this £20 uplift, they'll only spend it on cigarettes and booze and all that. From my point of view, spend your money on what you spend your money on, you know, like that people should get money and should be allowed to spend it. You know, oh, you can only spend it on these things, you can only do this and that's a really awful way to go on. But how does that make you feel in knowing the reality of it? Like, you know, you're talking about getting a stable broadband connection in, you're talking about like, what do you think about that, Stuart?
It's disappointing that people say they're getting this money to lift them to a point where they have some dignity in their life, and the first thing people think is they're going to spend it on fags, they're going to spend it on booze, they're going to spend it on drugs. We had a Tory saying, you know, they'll exchange things at a brothel. I was like, they think the absolute worst of people, and the reality is they're spending it on heating to stay warm, so the kids aren't, you know, shaking in the bedrooms on a night, and they're spending it on broadband and getting mobile phones, right? Which they'll keep chucking back at you. Oh, they've got an iPhone, but part of the deal when you sign up to Universal Credit is that you're accessible online, that you have a mobile phone number, that you can access the systems and put, you know, data online and speak to an advisor online, you know, on a regular basis. You can't miss an appointment over the telephone. You've got to be available for that. And if you can't afford a telephone contract, you know, a mobile phone, then you can't participate in what is meant to you know, keep you going, keep you surviving. And just cutting that back and saying, no, you shouldn't have these things when it's the baseline requirement to actually get the job done, that's shocking.
Absolutely. Laura, you've been keeping an eye on the comments, and I know some really good ones.
Yeah, I've been trying. There's been some amazing ones. So earlier on, Jane Strange was talking about how there's been over 130,000 deaths just through the government's austerity measures. This is, you know, pre-COVID, just because they couldn't afford to live, or that they were in such dire straits that, you know, suicide rates had gone up. So they do have blood on their hands for that. Also, John, I think it was John Harrison, sorry if I got your second name wrong there, John, had said that he's a disabled man who is fighting for the retention and extension to the £20 uplift of universal credit, because that is being taken away from disabled people as well. And he's been campaigning on that, and he's met quite a few families who didn't even know that this was coming. So there's people there who just don't realise that money is going to be taken away from them, which again is terrible messaging. You know, the government have, well, is it terrible or is it on purpose? You know, call me cynical, but I think it's probably on purpose. Going back to, you know, what Stuart was just saying about being able to have a phone and being able to be accessible. And also what Kerry was saying about people being demonized and thought the worst of. We've, you know, there's quite a few comments in about that as well. Just that, what do they want poor people to be in sackcloth and ashes before they'll accept them need and help, you know? And yeah, that you know, Kerry, I totally agree with everything you're saying about, you know, oh, we put ourselves first, we've got to look after ourselves, and they can say that, but then why aren't they tackling their government to look after their own? Because government aren't looking after their own, but they are very good at pointing the finger at the people we should be annoyed at. So, for Brexit, it's refugees. Well, there'll be another reason we don't want the Afghan people to come here next, I'm sure. But also during that whole, and the benefit scum TV programs that were put out for entertainment purposes, poking fun at people who were, on hard times. That's got Tory handprints all over it. Point your fingers at those people. You're all right. Look after yourself. They're the problem. And I think we just need to start listening to people a bit more, listening to people who are accessing universal credit and the reasons they're doing that. Not just universal credit, every other, benefit that is available. It's just really sickening to think that the government sit up there in their ridiculous expensive houses. Somebody said, Rishi Sunak with his tennis court and his swimming pool or what have you, and then we're not allowed to even.
Don't get me started on Rishi Sunak and his swimming pool. Don't get me started on that one. Oh, what an insult! What an added insult!
Oh my god!
To be honest, the thing about Sunak that annoys me is that he actually literally had more to do with the world financial crisis than most people. He was really heavily involved in it, and now he's like running a country's finances, and he's meant to be this expert. It's really, really annoying. John Harrison
John's
correct.
Just said, yeah, he's just said they haven't had. Disabled people didn't even have the £20 uplift. There's no
ESA claimants or anything like that didn't get it. That's why we wanted to extend it to a legacy benefit. None of them got it.
People don't realise that, there's nearly 30 different types of benefit in this country, and universal credit only replaced 6 of them. All the others, and they come from basically 4 groups of people, whether it's through the tax or, even some of them through your employer, essentially. And only a small, tiny percentage of people were helped with this uplift. So extending it's a massive deal.
Yeah, it's like me, carer's allowance. I'm in receipt of UC, obviously. And I'm a carer for my autistic son. But on paper, I only actually get £35.10 of my carer's allowance out of the £67 odd. Because I'm on UC, they take the rest off me. But on the stats of the government websites, I'll be on their stats as being unemployed. But I'm not. I'm a carer. But I'll be on their stats as being unemployed. Which is just wrong, isn't it?
Like, why did they do that, do we think?
Because they have this perception of people who are in receipt of benefits as being the scum of society, so the figures are higher. There's more scummers of society.
So you think it's like a propaganda thing? It's like saying, look at these people, and the othering of another group of people, and saying, they're not like you. They're something different. This couldn't happen to you. Because that's the idea, isn't it? This could happen to anyone. Anyone could need some form of help, some form of social security. That's the idea of a civilized society.
Stuart's partner, Ashley, will know my situation. My life changed forever within 1 hour. My partner died within 1 hour. Life changed for me with me and my children within 1 hour. Totally unexpected, everything like that. I didn't expect to be in the situation I'm currently in, far from. Like, my partner died. He wasn't expected to die. My life changed within 1 hour. And because my life changed within an hour and I've got an autistic son who I get carers allowance for, I'm demonised in society as scum of the earth, which is just, to me, blows my mind away. Like, towards I won't even say the name, the moon, the opposite name of the moon paper, and the Daily Fail and all that. Like, on paper, I'm deemed as scum of society, but sorry, my life changed forever within 1 hour, and people just don't get that. And everyone's situation's different, and people think that you get all these benefit scroungers who are sat on the backside all day, every day, just taking everything. I'm not one of them, and the abuse I've had for being in receipt of universal credit is just, whoa. And I've had to refrain. I can't, on my comments, what I've said on posts and stuff like that, I've really refrained which is not normally me. But my life changed forever within 1 hour. Like, God forbid, and I shouldn't really, but like anyone's life on this Zoom could change forever, like mine did. So don't judge until you're put in that situation, and a lot of people just don't get that.
Now,
these are conversations we should have been having for a long time. I think with the rise of, Maggie Thatcher and neoliberalism, it's like the empathy's been kicked out of the country. Look after yourself, blame everyone else, and dehumanize as many people as possible along the way. That's kind of feels like where we're at now.
Yeah, absolutely. And linking in with Thatcher and the economic illiteracy of this all, earlier on, Kerry, you mentioned it's going to cost $6 billion, yeah? Now, what's going to happen to this $6 billion? So this £20, you were talking about like this money was spent. That went to a broadband company, yeah? Yeah. And maybe you bought something in your local community. Maybe you spent a little bit more in your local shop and things like that. So where does this $6 billion end up? Does it end up in an offshore bank account?
Well, in Redcar and Cleveland, definitely not, because I've pulled my YTSMP Jacob Young up on this several times. If 13,500 and something claim UC in Redcar and Cleveland, if the UC £20 uplift is cut, that's £1.4 million out of the local economy every month. See, I told you I knew my stuff when it comes to stuff like this.
That's great. That's such a fantastic statistic, and I bet you people aren't thinking of it like that. That is money out of the local economy that can be spent in local shops, which will help other people to be able to afford to have more, and so on. So this money being taken, it's not just being taken out of individual people and putting them in poverty. It's actually taking money out of your local economy. And for what? Like where are the government putting the money at the moment? They're giving it to Dido Harding, or they're giving it to Serco, or they're giving it to G4S, and all those things. We know that they're ending up in the Cayman Islands, in offshore bank accounts. It is not being usefully spent within the economy, and economies are supposed to have money that circulates. If you put money into an economy, it's meant to stay there and be swapped, put between hands, but instead it's been sucked out by these like vultures who are coming in and trying to take that money. And that is not the people on universal credit. That is not the people who you will spend that money. Like you give someone who needs to spend money 20 quid, they're going to spend that 20 quid. If you give that to a billionaire, they're not going to spend it, are they? They're not going to spend that 20 quid. And I suppose that's what we really need to get across to people, isn't it?
I could go to Herod and spend 20 quid and feed my kids for 5 days. Easy. Where 20 quid to some Tory MPs means a bottle of wine. I think I wrote to Ben Ouchin a few with Tees Valley Mayor. I wrote to him, and I'll give him his due, he replied, and I think out of the Tees Valley, this £20 uplift is going to take over nearly 10 million a month out of the local economy, and that's only in the Tees Valley. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
How are they justifying this? Like, what have I missed?
No, this isn't in my remit, Kerry. I was like, well, what is in your remit? The airport's like, might as well be bankrupt. What's in your remit? Yeah.
They're paying taxpayer money, by the way, to subsidise an airport, but they will not, support taxpayer money, because it's public money, supporting kids getting fed, or kids being kept warm. Oh, that's out of the question. That's wrong. But there's an airport down the road I like to get flights out of. I'll keep chucking money at it.
I'm going to Benny next week, Stuart, for 2 weeks. Can you imagine?
So Stuart's done something there. He's pulled himself up on taxpayer money, but it's okay because he used it in the correct context there. He is using taxpayer money there because local government can't generate its own money, can't invent its own money. So taxpayer money is appropriate. They are taking taxes from local people and putting it into an airport so that they can get to Westminster quicker. They really are doing that.
It's that bad. It's comical. You could laugh out loud because it's just that bad. But they're willing to send kids more into poverty and like starve and like not be warmth or like have heating or lights or whatever like that. And
Yeah,
that's
they
what
keep
these
saying that they
Tories
can't
are. They're just
afford it.
self-serving morons.
Mm.
They really, really are. And I always said when, after the general election 2019, the turkeys voted for Christmas. Well, it's got worse than that now. The turkeys voted for a YTS MP, well, especially in Redcar, because he's an absolute moron. He hasn't got a clue. He's like a YTS MP. He has not got a clue.
Some people might not know what YTS is. It's youth training.
Oh, sorry, I'm showing my age now, Anna. The
Yeah, well,
apprentice MP then.
It's international youth training scheme because he's quite a young lad and he doesn't really have a clue what's going on.
You're being so polite, Stuart, because he's an absolute moron. He's a pleb.
He's a bit like, Robin without Batman. If you just stood Robin by himself.
You've been so kind, Stuart, there. You've been
Robin's
so
so
kind.
cool. Robin's the cool one.
I know, he's been so kind.
Yeah, you're a nice guy, Stuart, but yeah, it sounds like this lad, this person
Not like
doesn't
that
know.
program designated survivor when he goes in and he's deemed as the president of the USA and he hasn't got a clue about anything, and everyone's like, that's what Jacob Young's like, that, but on a much more smaller scale.
So lately you've got this campaign, you got Cancel the Cut, and I'm looking at my other screen here that I'm about to show people who are at home, and I'll describe it to the podcast listeners. There has been this big campaign where, tell me about this picture of the beach. I'm going to put it on for the viewers now. Tell me about what's going on. This is a massive picture of, I don't know how big that is, but it looks absolutely huge.
It's huge.
It says Cancel the Cut, and it's in the shape of a £20 note. It's a really clever piece of art, and there seems to be words within it that I can't quite make out. But yeah, tell me about this. Where is it?
It was on Bridlington Beach on Wednesday. When I got there, obviously I'm a night community member. When I got there, I was like, well, where's this sand art? But when you look at the drone footage of him, it's like really like, it looks really, really good. And I think I'm trying to like look at the words cancel the cut. So I must have wrote in the tea, rethink Rishi. And we had loads of families there from all over the region. We had 20 Syrian refugees, which were a big family on the beach. We had who'd never been to a beach before, who'd never had an ice cream before, who'd never been to a British seaside town before. We had loads of things going on, and it was really, really good. And it was not sad towards, like, it was like, to me, although I'm on the poverty line, as everyone knows, to me, seeing like a child who'd never actually been on a beach before or had a British ice cream before, that made me quite sad. And I think I'm hard done by, but when you look at these Syrian kids and you just think, wow, like, but it was like really, really good. And sanding your eye on it, and they've done all the drone shots, and they got all the kids and whoever was there to write within the letters of cancel the cut. And they all wrote the different things, and they've done the drone shots, and it was like a really, really good like thing. And not that I genuinely don't believe that Rishi Sunak is going to take any notice of it, but it was like a really, really good thing. I mean, some of the feedback we've had is that like kids have never been to the beach before, not Syrian kids, even British kids have never been to a beach before and had an ice cream. And isn't that tragic in 2021 in Britain? Isn't that just absolutely heartbreakingly tragic? I mean, I live 5 minutes away from Redcar, but it's like the feedback we got from it is just so sad and heartbreaking. And this is what these Tories are doing to people in society. And when will people wake up?
We need to keep telling them. That's the problem. The media is not our friend, so that's why we have to do shows like this to try and tell people these things, because people don't take any notice. People don't listen. People haven't got time. People are too busy trying to just get through each day. Things need to change massively, not just. And I do think if we were in a position where the government would make employers pay a better wage, I think a lot of these problems go away. If people can afford if people can just be comfortable, I'm not talking making everybody a millionaire. If people can be comfortable and be able to afford to pay their bills, be able to afford their home, you know, a lot of these problems go away. And yet somehow that is not seen as a priority. But, you know, if we want to bomb someone, we find the money.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And it's interesting as well. You said there, Kerry, about you don't think Rishi Sunak will pay any attention to this, even though it's absolutely fantastic. Actually, what we've seen over the last, well, all over lockdown, is that the only people that the government will make a U-turn for is the British public. You know, if we put on enough pressure, we have changed things. Okay, not loads and loads of things, but like the oppositions haven't done anything yet. You know, you look at the free school meals, that was a footballer.
This is what gets me as well, Laura. Where is the Labour Party? Where is the so-called working class Labour Party, the so-called opposition? Where is the opposition on this like issue? We haven't got one. It's absolutely shameful that the Labour Party are doing this to the like working class people. Me and the Labour Party don't mix well though, but it's like, where's our opposition? It's as though the Labour Party currently don't exist.
Speaking of the Labour Party, I think 47 minutes might be a new record for the amount of time it's taken us to mention them on a Saturday night. So, well done all. Oh, God. Well, what did you do? Like, I
don't know. It's been 45
crime?
weeks and I still don't know. I got expelled October the 2nd, 2020, and I still don't know.
Well,
I was a branch sec.
Future crimes, perhaps. Perhaps they looked into the future and did a Minority Report style thing.
No, former MP with sour grapes, more like.
Ah, right, okay. Makes sense. So I've got another picture. I've got another picture coming here, which is the viewers at home will have seen it as well. Now this is a close up of the L, which says rethink Rishi. £20 a week means keeping the heating on in winter.
£20 a week keeps. Oh God, my eyes aren't even that good. £20 a week keeps the heating on during the winter. Yeah, it was Callum. Yeah. And
then cancel the coat and all sorts of things in the tea, and you know it gives you an idea of the scale of this art, and also seeing the people on there, seeing how small the people look. This was brilliant.
Give your staff look forever.
This was brilliant. How long did it last? You know, did it wash away quite quickly?
It started about 1:30 and it got washed away by the sea at 4:30.
Oh wow.
Apparently.
So it was just there for that short amount of time.
Yeah.
Well, very, very good. So, you know, what kind of impact has that had? You know, have people from the area, did that increase like awareness of your campaign? Did people even know this was happening? You know, has this been a positive thing?
I need to bite my tongue regarding Unite because I don't want to say anything out loud because I know quite a lot. But the North and South divide, regardless of organisation, is more apparent than ever. And even Unite, our union's got a big North and South divide. And I will say that because I won't be a Unite community member next month. So the North and South divide, if it happened in a different situation, it would have been more widespread. But yeah, I can't say too much about that because I'll get into trouble.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a wonderful campaign. We'll be happy to share that photo and share information that you need to share with the community on that, and anyone who wants to get involved. How would people get involved in this Cancel the Cut campaign as well?
I'll send you the link, Paul. I've got a link about it all. Yeah, but you can join the campaign. You can email your MP about the cut and ask them to cancel it. There's just loads of stuff going on with it. Yeah, you can cancel the cut. Email your MP. I've emailed mine several times and others haven't. It's been completely and utterly ignored. Ben Ouchen's the only one who's actually replied to me. But yeah, there's loads of stuff going on, but I will give you the link and then if you can post the link.
Yeah, It's already,
But there's
already
loads of stuff
done.
going on,
Laura's
but
on
yeah,
the
like,
Laura's on the ball. It's up there. It's up
our
there on the
region,
screen.
and
as
I
we
know I'm
speak.
very biased, and Stuart will be very, very biased. Our region within Unite community is the best, and Stuart will agree with me that we've got an amazing coordinator who goes above and beyond, who has us totally organised, and she deserves her true credit. But yeah, the North and South divide in Unite community is apparent more than ever. I won't say any more because I'll get into trouble.
You won't get into trouble. What you're doing is you're feeling deflated a little.
I'm not feeling deflated. Just think of it. If an event happened on the South Coast Beach, what we done up here on Wednesday, it would be totally whoosh amplified. But because it's happened up here, it hasn't been.
Shall we get in contact with everyone we know in Unite and see if we can get this absolutely promoted the way it should have been? Because that was huge. Let's do that. Let's get in contact with Unite, and we've got a new General Secretary of Unite as well. I'm saying we. I'm not in Unite, so I have no feelings.
No, you just deflated me there, Paul. You just totally deflated me there.
I'm not in. I'm a teacher, so I'm an ASUWT. So
I'm in Unite, Kerry. I'll have a go.
I'll have a go. You know what? I think I was massively part of Steve Turner's campaign. For me personally, he was the best person for the job. And I was absolutely gutted on Tuesday, Wednesday when we found out it wasn't him. But at the end of the day, it's not rubber-faced Gerard Coyne. And you know what? In a male-dominated environment of Unite, which I've attended many risks with Heather, which Stuart has, it's a male-dominated environment. And I think Unite in general wants to be proud. We've got our first General Secretary who's a woman. Let's just hope she does everything she's promised in her manifesto. But I'm gutted it's not Steve Turner because I was part of his campaign. But congratulations, Sharon Graham. But let's hope she does everything she said what she's going to do on the tin. Yeah,
let's hope so.
On that one.
You know, she said a lot of good things, and actually, she doesn't seem quite as beholden to Labourism. And I know that Steve Turner isn't either, but like Unite have been accused lately of being quite Labour obsessed, and I think maybe this is something that they need to really consider about campaigns outside of the Labour Party, because at the moment the Labour Party is entirely shutting out the trade union movement, in my view. They don't seem interested in what trade unions have got to say, and trade unions are powerful outside of the Labour Party, and in many ways more powerful and can do more than the Labour Party can do. So let's see what the trade union movement can do as a group. It could be quite an exciting time there. So Laura, any comments coming in? Because I've seen quite a few nice ones, but it's nice to have you doing the comments tonight.
I'm going to let you pick up on them because I've been finding it really hard to pay attention and write the comments down because I can't rewind them on my screen. So there's been that many I've missed loads. So please do. I'll let you take this one.
I'll give you the login so you can scroll back anytime you want.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Jane Strange, as one of the people who's obviously been on here a few times and we know and love very much. Haven't we paid to heat Tory MPs' stables, but we're asking working class people to freeze? You know, and that's true, isn't it? You know, a Tory MP was using public money to heat the stables for his horses. And it's like, well, I've got nothing against these horses being warm, but I don't want to pay for that as a country when you're not willing to pay to make sure that people are warm in their own homes.
We can't give our teachers a pay rise who teach our kids who are going to go on for generations. It absolutely boils my blood. A lot of them, they really, really do.
Yeah, we've had can you remember, after the 2008 crisis, they were like, we're all in this together. And they gave the MPs a pay freeze for 2 years, and they gave the whole public sector a pay freeze for 2 years. And then when in 2015, they jumped the MP pay up to where it would have been had they had an in-line with inflation pay rise and a little bit more. But they didn't do that to teachers, And they didn't do that to nurses, and they didn't do that to cleaners, and they didn't do that. You know, it's always like one rule for them and another for everyone else. And we need to get our heads around this.
You will know this, Paul, like you're a teacher. The pay rise issue that you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, to me, that must have been like a big kick in the stomach for you as teachers.
Yeah, do you know the worrying thing is? It's become like almost just accepted. It's like, yeah, you're that deflated and you expected that much that you're just like, yeah, it's just another blow. It's just another one. We completely expect it. And everyone's getting to the point where like people aren't even angry anymore. They just think, well, this is how it is. And one of the things as well is when we had all those pay freezes before, they actually changed our tax situation. We actually got a pay cut by an increased national insurance at that time. No one ever talks about that, you know, like, so our taxes went up and then they cut them for corporations. And this is the way they've been going on, but we're just either too busy, struggling too much to really pay it the attention it deserves. And I really worry that people aren't paying enough attention. They aren't making enough noise about this, but we'll do our best.
When it comes to teaching, I'll make enough noise. Our little school, like our primary school where my kids go, well, my big two used to go, where my little one still does go now. Throughout COVID, they could not have done enough for us. Kerry, you're all right. Kerry, you're doing this. Kerry, you're doing that. They went beyond their station, like for like parents like me who are on my own, and like a teacher's role stuff start like 9 till 5 Monday to Friday. A lot of teachers take their like load home after work, if you know what I mean. A lot of teachers carry their load throughout the weekend, like thinking about things and doing whatever, planning and stuff like that. And I think when it comes to like another insult from the Tory government is the fact that like they're totally demonising teachers again when it comes to poor children, to keep the head on the head of them poor children again, because you're going to get like, who's not going to get totally deflated about continuously like getting disregarded about the GCSEs and all that, and you were completely and utterly disregarded in again a Tory government thing. And yeah, I just think the Tory government like just need to go.
Labour let us down as well. Like during the pandemic, Labour did let us down as well, and she was terrible. when Rebecca Long Bailey was sacked, when she was standing up for what the unions were asking for, and she really was representing us. And then they replaced her with Kate Green, who immediately she came to our conference and told us what teachers think at a teacher conference. She said, "Oh well, teachers I've been speaking to think this," and it's like, "Well, we don't think this. We're teachers, and we're telling you what we think." And she says, "Well, that's not what teachers think. We are teachers."
What do you know? Sitting in the House of Commons, do you know what I mean? What does she know?
She knows that very, very little. It's interesting. Kevin from the USA, I'm guessing, saying just like the USA, same work issues. So it's really interesting to hear that like this is a worldwide capitalism thing, isn't it? Like this is the same issue we see around the world. They were all linked together. Workers of the world need to unite. That's very important. Stuart, we haven't heard from you in a bit. You must have had some
Stuart, am
absolute...
I overtaking everything? Sorry, you're normally the brainy one who says everything.
Yeah,
Am I?
We've known you more than me.
I mean, I sit back and I listen a little more than a lot of people. I know that the point of this is to talk, but you know, just to pick up on some of the things like Sharon as a leader of Unite. One of the things I've noticed in Unite community is you know, the women's place within the union. You know, in most people's communities, people really overlook women as in the leadership roles that they're clearly already in, you know, and Unite community, I think, is a great way of kind of championing these women who are already doing the work, who just get completely looked over, you know. And I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with women within the union. I'm really, you know, excited by that. You know, you touched on like how important it is to get the Tory government out Like right now, I don't need a brilliant Labour government right now. I mean, I would have really wanted Jeremy Corbyn's Labour government. You know, that 2019 manifesto is really shown that it was a couple of years ahead of its time almost. You know, and it feels like one of those unappreciated masterpieces. You know, that if you were to sit down and read it now, in the context of what's gone on right now, you know, with the cuts and you know, speaking about getting internet and homeschooling and how teachers have been affected, you know, I feel really sad almost that that's not, you know, what we're doing, how we're fixing things, and that we're basically dealing in a world where we only get real change if we can manage to shame people enough. You know, like that's the job, isn't it? That we have to go to Tory MPs and shame them to a level where they don't want to change their mind, but they have no other option because they don't want to look bad and they want to get re-elected. And there's no real, you know, proper future in that, because they will get re-elected. And then we have to go back to shaming them again, unless there's, you know, a real, you know, concerted and unified push to get Tories out of government and get real, you know, change in our communities at the same time.
Do you think that we're getting our message across well enough? Because like I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think we need to be doing things. I think people are so tied up in political battles, in Westminster battles, that they're focusing on all their energy on trying to get elected, but they're not focusing on any ideas. And you've got right-wing people coming out with all these outlandish ideas that people believe. You know, it is not natural to believe that people who are in the social security system, who are in work, are somehow like robbing other people when you've got massive companies profiteering from the same people and not paying them enough money so that they have to claim, you know, public money from that. That is not a natural state of affairs. Are we getting this across? And again, the other day I put something out on Facebook about the free broadband policy from the Labour Party in 2019, and people saying, oh, it seemed desperate and so on. And it did. It kind of seemed like they were like, oh, pulling policies out of the hat. But did we get across very well that the Conservative Party wanted to do exactly the same as the Labour Party did, in that they wanted the government, they wanted the public to pay for the infrastructure? The difference between the plans were, at the end of that infrastructure being paid for, the Tory government wanted the private sector to charge people in order to make profits. The Labour government wanted that facility to be there for free for the people because they've paid for it. Now, did we get that message across? Did anyone does anyone even know that? And I'm interested in what people are saying in the comments here as well. Is that the way the policy came across, or did it come across in a completely different way? Because who can argue with the common sense there of go with the policy that is like, you know, you've paid for it, so you get to use it for free, or we'll pay for it and we'll charge you to use it? You know, did we get that across?
2019, definitely not.
Stuart, you were saying something as well. Yeah,
Sorry, Stuart.
Yeah, exactly the same as Kerry. It didn't come across that simple, did it, Kerry?
Definitely not.
We kind of get, you know, given these nuanced policies, aren't we? And these nuanced ideas, when in reality, we want your kids to be, you know, looked after. We want you to grow old in a dignified way. You know, we don't want, you know, a 20-minute breakdown on a policy, do we? On a day-to-day thing. You don't want to go and hear the message on the news being, you know, it might be really articulate and well-defined, and it would make a brilliant PowerPoint. But what you want is to like touch onto people's feelings and reassure them that their lives will be better. And that we don't have a lot of people, I don't think, who do that really well.
In 2017, we did.
Well, we're living, let's face it though, we are literally living in a society a society of people that are seduced by 3-word slogans. That's what we have to boil our interesting, nuanced, well thought out policies down to. 3 words that are catchy. And until we can start having broader conversations with people and engage people to sort of listen, and find ways to do that, that's the game we have to play. As much as I hate playing games, but playing politics is a game that we're never going to win if we're going to keep doing it the same way over and over again. That's why these sorts of conversations are really important. We've got to engage people. We've got to get people thinking about their lives and that they have a voice and that they can be heard, and that what they think is important, that they can influence change, all of that. But unfortunately, the government have put everybody on their knees, and nobody's got the time to get involved. And it has all been a very carefully thought out plan, as stupid as their leader may appear, and I believe is. There's a machine behind them making sure the majority of people in this country, and everywhere else as well, that has these big leaders, the USA is not particularly different, that they can't find the time because they're too busy just trying to stay afloat.
See, I think that a lot of people agreeing with that 3-word slogan thing, by the way. I actually don't. I actually think there's more behind that. I think the 3-word slogan fits in because there's been a lot of groundwork done. So when someone creates a show like Benefit Street, there's a long-term political goal there. There's a long-term, these things seep into people's consciousness, and then they hear the 3-word slogan and they're like, I agree with that because it fits in with the thing I've been getting told for years and years and years and years, even though that thing under any scrutiny doesn't really make any sense. I think we're fighting.
That's exactly
I think we're 20 years
exactly
behind.
what I'm getting at. Yeah, no, but that's what I'm getting at. It's like we've been put on our knees, so a 3-word slogan is what we've got, and we believe it because that's where we are. That's what's been fed to us for so long. And now the Labour Party coming in with their 3-word slogan isn't going to work because we haven't win the future. However, I'm sorry, but it means what the fuck.
When you get a Labour MP who
just
doesn't give a shit about the rollout of universal credit in her constituency in Redcar in 2018, does not give a shit, and you have to stand up in a GC meeting and kick off about it, that speaks volumes to me. And now she's acting like she's not a Labour MP. Well, she's not an MP anymore, but now she's acting like Mother Teresa in a food bank, where previously, when she was in a position where she could have made a change, did nothing. But because she wants to become the MP again, which is, I hope to God she's got bob and none, acting like Mother Teresa, where when she was in a position where she could change things and speak out in Parliament and do whatever for the likes of me, was not bothered. But and that's Labour MPs, and that's, to me, that's just beyond completely and utterly shameful. She was a so-called Labour MP, and Redcar and Cleveland's got 13,500 claimants of UC, and that was before the rollout. And I think that to get anywhere, to get these Tories out, the Labour Party needs a big, how can I explain it, like a big grab of all these self-serving so-called Labour MPs, and they need to get rid of the lot and get back to its working class grassroots before we will get any chance of getting a Labour government again. I don't care what anyone says. If around here, we will not have a Labour MP for a long, long time, as far as I'm concerned. We won't, because we're not going to... What's the Labour Party doing at the moment for the likes of me? Nothing. What's the Labour Party doing for the likes of people in Durham, Darlington, our Tees Valley? Nothing. And what's Sir Keir Starmer doing? Nothing. So the Labour Party needs to take a big, long, hard look at itself in the mirror before it expects to get into government and get all these Labour MPs again, because we're going to get nowhere. I do genuinely believe that.
Do you not think murdering an alpaca speaks to the people quite well?
What's an alpaca? Oh,
Did you
it's
know
one of
about
them things
this?
that looks like a big thing, isn't it? I know what you're on about, but
Do you
I
know?
know what you mean.
Do you know about when he wanted to murder the Well, he didn't want to murder the alpaca. That's a bit extreme. Do you know about this story?
No.
Do you know how he doesn't say anything about anything? Well, he did really come out and make a very strong stand. There was this alpaca that tested positive for TB 4 years ago, and he was saying how important it was that it was put down. And its owner was like, there's this big campaign online, and he came out against it for some reason. He wouldn't comment on anything during COVID, but this alpaca must die. So yeah, a lot of people are a bit baffled by that one when I mentioned that.
I was like, I'm just going like back to me. Like I was proper passionate about the Labour Party, beyond passionate. I am passionate about the Labour Party, but I feel as though, as me being a former member, now I'm expelled and everything like that, I feel as though like the Labour Party itself has shit on me from a greatest height more than the Tory Party have. And for me, that's just wow. It's wrong, and it's just really, really wrong. And Sir Keir Starmer's going to get nowhere unless he gets a boot up the arsehole and gets back to his grassroots.
Yeah, I'm not sure he has any
I say that?
grassroots.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that out loud.
You can say whatever you want. You know, we do believe in freedom of speech on this channel.
Sorry.
No, we do, and I think that's really important as well. On the left, we should have freedom of speech because that's people think the left is about shutting down free speech, and it isn't. It's about being able to say what you want and someone being able to call you a knob if you're wrong, which actually no one did because you don't need to, because you're not. Yeah. So, Stuart.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Like what Kerry was touching on there, you know, that kind of self-serving politics that you get really plays to the Tories and the way that they're operating, especially in the northeast of England right now, where on a Monday they'll be in a food bank handing out the parcels, but on a Wednesday they'll go to Westminster to fuck the people and vote, you know, to put them in a worse position. They'll say one thing on Monday, and by Friday they'll have done different. And it's like, if we don't have any real counter to that, you know, on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, who's going to call them out on the Monday and then follow it up and call them out on the Wednesday and then on the Friday and not stop, we're going to get nowhere. And it's just going to look to local people who see them at the food bank. It was like, oh, he's a good guy, was at the food bank, without ever realising that he went to Westminster and voted to take away some of your social security from you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think they are playing the game so well. It's like, here you'll have Howell voting like against youth provision and things in Sedgefield, but then coming along and saying how important it is that like people have things to do so that antisocial behaviour is reduced and things like that. It's just like all things to all people, and no one's checking the voting record, you know. Like, it was when he was coming in and saying he was going to vote for food safety standards, but then he voted to reduce food safety standards and then said it was being disingenuous to say he'd voted that way. And you're like, shut up, man. It really gets on my nerves. Laura, I want to come to something we said about Sharon Graham and women within Unite. So what do you want to see coming out of this? You've got a woman general secretary, and we've spoken about how, you know, if you have women in these positions, it's really important that they don't like kind of pull up the ladder behind them, which I'm not suggesting that she might do, but also we've seen a lot of women like get into these positions, but they aren't necessarily women who have faced the same barriers that a lot of women face. So what are you hoping for from a new woman general secretary at Unite?
Well, I mean, I don't know Sharon Graham's story as such, but something Kerry pointed out earlier on is absolutely factually correct. Unite is very heavily male dominated, and there are more women coming through to have sort of, I guess, positions, and I think it's really good that Sharon's won. Was Team Steve sadly didn't win, but at this point anybody but Coyne for me. So I think like Kerry said, I'm really excited to see she's sort of saying all the right things, things she wants to do. I agree that she shouldn't be heavily heavily looking at the Labour Party, because the Labour Party aren't in government. They're not making any change, and they're not even really being any sort of form of opposition at the minute. So if Unite can, do their work in workplaces, make sure there's equality and fairness across the whole of the country, across Unite. And yeah, there are a lot of women's issues in the workplace. Absolutely. There's so much. We've seen, with the Kill the Bill and Reclaim the Streets and everything that's been happening, that women's issues are still really prevalent and they're still not being talked about. So I am worried that she's going to, I am hopeful. I'm half reading, I'm half reading messages and half trying to say what I'm trying to say. So sorry. I am hopeful that she will focus on that as well, and that she will bring more women through into leadership positions. Because honestly, I have not seen anybody organised as well as a group of women when they get angry about something. I think get a load of women together on the same page, and it is unbelievable what they can do. So I think we
Cut
could
out
really
the men.
see a huge exactly.
Yeah, I think the
some
women
real
really
change.
help the men. I think, like, looking back through history and looking at like the kind of class struggle that women have been involved with, and the revolutions that in 1917, before like the horrible people eventually got rid of what was good about the revolution in Russia, etc. Later on, that Russia's revolution against the Tsars was triggered by a strike by women, which helped everyone. Like that was like, they got rid of the Tsars, they did all those things. So when women are leaders in unions, you often find that men are helped massively by the fact that women are involved in that. Like, the women are often being the leaders of in these struggles, and the more women leaders, the better, I think, personally.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I really agree with them. Just incredible organisers, really are, and very thoughtful in what they
We can
do.
multitask unlike men.
Very passionate. Yeah, just yeah. So hopefully we'll see some real change coming
I hope
forward
so
to
too. I
Unite.
really do. I do.
So what barriers do you want her to remove, Laura? Like, that's kind of, what do you think are the barriers that are stopping women getting into leadership positions? And I don't mean general secretary positions. I mean, like, branch secretary. You're a branch secretary yourself. What sort of things are stopping women from doing those things?
Well, see, it's hard for me to say, to talk about that because I am a branch secretary.
Yeah, but what have
um,
you found hard
but it's the
about
same.
that position?
It's the same sort of barriers that you find elsewhere in these sort of movements, and that is I do genuinely believe that women don't get taken quite as seriously, especially in trade unions. It has, for me and my experience, and when I've spoken to other women, it does feel a bit like male dominated. We've done this from day one. We know better. We know how this is done. I'm really lucky because my predecessor was just amazing, and he was really keen to bring women through. We need more people like that. We need more understanding um of what a good job women can do, and less misogyny, just in all walks of life. To be fair, it's cats' right positions in unions should be elected. I was elected. I didn't just walk into it, I promise. But I've since doing this in the women's banner group as well, women, a lot of women do really suffer from imposter syndrome. Like, oh, I'd like to give that a go, but it's not for me because I couldn't do it. And you've got to be a certain type of person. We need to really break down those barriers of that self-belief, and really, promote women and make them believe that they can do it. Um, there's a money issue as well. If you want to go to training, you've got to be up and down the country, and that sort of bleeds into politics a bit as well. If you want to go stand for election or anything like that, you've got to have money behind you. So we need to have a look at ways to allow working class women to sort of flourish in those roles as well. There's so many barriers, and it's not just gender specific. It's race and you know sex, all sorts of things are barriers, just in the same way they are in everyday life. And we've just got to try and promote a bit more equality and a bit listening a bit more, and being a bit careful how we speak to people. And I just think just be a bit more open and a bit more understanding, and I think things will start to change.
I think you learn a lot from other people's barriers, because if you find out what barriers, like say, women have that disproportionately affect women, that actually affects quite a lot of, like a smaller group of men as well. And then you find out, oh, they've got barriers, and then you've got disabled people facing different barriers, and you've got LGBT plus people facing different barriers. And if you find out about all these things and remove the barriers, then you get better outcomes. That's why I always think, and that's what it's got to be about. So Laura, you've entered the waiting room. Why is that?
I'm just preparing because my computer's not plugged in and I think it might go off. So
yeah,
if it goes off, let me in.
Okay. So last 10 minutes. See you later, Kevin. Kevin's just said goodbye on the chat there. So last few minutes, and I suppose it's closing comments. What would we like to see, everyone? Laura, I'm going to leave the joining and the subscribing and all that stuff to you, so get prepared. Stuart, what do you want to see come out of this universal credit campaign? How do people get involved? How do people help? And what do you want to see for the future? And basically anything you want to say. This is a free-for-all.
Contact your MP, write him a snotty letter, tell him what to do, because you deserve dignity and food and heating for your kids. Go to Unite Community, sign the campaign letters, get local community groups to sign the joint letters. We have postcards that you can sign and stick through your MP's letterbox, just to give him another reminder that you should actually be doing what you ask. What I want is a win. I want the £20 to be maintained, but then extended to all the people who really need it. We shouldn't be excluding people from support that is rightfully theirs.
Absolutely brilliant, as always, Stuart. Thanks for coming on. You've been an absolute superstar, as always. Here we go, just fixing something. Hopefully that'll work. Perfect. Kerry, closing comments for you. What do you want to see happen?
I want the Tory government to keep the £20 uplift and extend it to legacy benefits. I don't believe that disabled people should be discriminated against because they're on the legacy benefits. And I think a lot of Tory MPs need to open their eyes about actual hardship and poverty in this country. When you get Rishi Sunak building a 1.5 million pool in his house in Richmond and adding insult to injury for the likes of me, I think that society in a whole needs to open their eyes in general and not discriminate against people who are claiming universal credit and not call them benefit scroungers.
That sounds perfectly fair, and you've been an absolute superstar tonight, Kerry. We want to thank you so much for coming on. You've got an open invite anytime you want to come on and talk about anything. We love people who actually are real people and aren't trying to be all politically
correct.
I don't know. Nah, maybe not that. Maybe that's not the right term. They're maybe not thinking politically. They're not out to get anything for themselves. You're just here to speak truth, and that's what we really enjoyed about you tonight. I'm sure I have anyway. I'm going to say thank you for all the comments in the chat. This chat is absolutely outstanding. It's high class. Disclaimer, because we are regulated by Impress, they are not our opinions if they appear on the screen. They are the opinions of our people. They are opinions of, think of them as another panelist. So those opinions are not ours, but we do really appreciate you being involved in the show. The show wouldn't be the show without the comments, so thank you so much for those of you who got involved. Make sure that you do tell other people about the show. Try to build our community, and I'm going to pass over to Laura, who's going to tell you how to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so you can find us anywhere nowadays. We do have our own website, socialistthinktank.com, but the best way to to make sure you don't miss any of our shows is head over to YouTube, find a Socialist Think Tank, subscribe, and hit the bell so that you get your notifications so you don't miss any shows. We also are available on Facebook and Twitter. You're looking at Socialist Tank on Twitter. But excitingly, we do now have some, what are we calling them? Branches? I don't know. Some other arms of our show.
Socialist Think Tank regions, yeah.
Regions, I guess. Well, yeah, because we might do some topic-specific ones as well. But at the minute, we've got Socialist Think Tank Southeast, Socialist Think Tank West Midlands, and we've just launched Socialist Think Tank London. So it's dead exciting. Do head over to those as well, especially if you're from those areas. They'll be doing some incredible local stuff as well as national stuff and feeding into what we do as well. Like, share, subscribe, find us on everything: Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook. We have a Discord channel that you can come and join if you become a member through our website. It's free. You don't have to pay. We are socialists. But if you can afford to contribute a little bit just so we can keep the content going, please do. We do appreciate it. If you like what we're doing, please head over there and donate, become a member, join the conversation, get on a show. You know, we forced our members to come on loads, and they're doing amazing, and we're so grateful for them. So yeah, join the team, come along. And thank you.
Yeah, and on that note, we like, you know, if we're only is it £41 from breaking even every month, so woo. we do other things. We have done other things to top up that, so we're looking kind of healthy financially, but we do lose a little bit of money every month because of all the things we have to pay for and the security and stuff. So if you do want to contribute, we do really greatly appreciate that. Monthly donations are very much appreciated, but that doesn't mean you get anything special, because as we said, we are socialists, and we certainly wouldn't want to be on a universal credit episode saying people on universal credit should have to give us anything. Keep your money, spend it on yourselves, spend it on your family, have a nice life, enjoy yourselves, because that's what's important. Look after each other. I sound like Jerry Springer. I don't mean to.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been absolutely brilliant.
Thanks for coming.
And we will see you all, like, so we will stay on the call for like a minute or two after this. The panel, the in-person panel, I guess. Sorry, I just totally went blank there about things to say. So we'll see you all next time. We have got Political Unmuted coming back on Tuesday. It's going to be, I am actually really looking forward to it. I've missed being on Political Unmuted, so it's going to be fun. We've got the Dream Team on, which will be me, Stuart, and Laura with Samantha, and our host John D. Clare, who has just let us stay in Whitby at his house, which has been really, really nice. So thanks to John for that, and we will see you all next
on Tuesday.
Week, on Tuesday, hopefully. Yeah, see you later.
We'll keep the red flag flying there.